Hello, my name is Sam from Libanus Church, and this week we're going to continue to look at the fruit of the Spirit mentioned in Galatians 5, and this week we're going to be looking at what is joy? What is true Christian joy? Now there's two big things that have happened this week. Now the first has been everybody celebrating the Queen's Jubilee. The Jubilee celebrations, they have been big, they have been endless, they've been constantly going on, celebrating 70 years that the Queen has spent on the throne. And I wonder how you've celebrated. I wonder if you had a street party or just used it as an excuse to go away somewhere or order in lots of food. It is a time of great celebration. It's a time where the whole of Britain can stop being miserable and can be joyful. I wonder how you've celebrated the Jubilee. I wonder what you've done to commemorate the Queen being on the throne for 70 years. Well, that's one big thing that's happened this week. The second big thing that has happened is that I've caught COVID. After managing to avoid it for the whole of the pandemic, I finally succumb and I've caught COVID. And so I've spent most of this week in bed. I've spent most of this week drifting in and out of consciousness with a sore throat, with a bad cough, with headaches and dizziness. So I haven't had the best Jubilee weekend ever, and even as I record this video, I'm still testing positive with COVID. I'm still not back to my usual self. And so those are the two big things that have happened this week. Two very different situations. However, in both of these situations, we as Christians are called to live out our Christian joy. And in this video, I want us to think about that as our context. As we think about what it is to live in a joyful way as believers, I want us to have those two great events in mind. Catching COVID and celebrating the Queen's Jubilee. There's no way that anyone should be expected to have the same response or reaction to both. And what I want to do for this video is to really look at the when, the what, the who, and the why of Christian joy. And those are the questions I want to try and answer today. Well, my first question is the when. So when have I got to be joyful? When is it that Christians should be joyful? It's not very easy to be joyful, is it? It can be easy when things are going well, when you've got that promotion that you want, when you've got the dream job or the salary that you desire, when you've retired and you've got nothing to do. That's times where it's easy to be joyful. But the Bible tells us in Thessalonians 5 and 16, 1 Thessalonians, it says, rejoice always. Rejoice always. Not just when things are going well, not just when you've had a really great week, not just when you've had a nice holiday or a long weekend. Rejoice always. Christian joy should not be limited or curtailed or contained because it's an emotion or a feeling, but really Christian joy is something that should transcend our entire lives. It's not something we should be able to lose. It's not something we should be able to forfeit. Christian joy is so different from what most people think joy means. James 1 and verse 2 says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. Well, even to be rejoicing when we're going through hardships, when we're going through difficulties, when our strength is being tried and tested, rejoice. Count it all joy. Whatever the situation, we are to rejoice. Because our joy is not found in the situations around us. Our joy is so much deeper and greater than that. The second question is then, what is this joy? If it doesn't matter about what situation or circumstance that we're in, what is this great Christian joy? How can it be measured? How can it be defined? Is it the same type of joy that we experience when our sports team wins? Not that Swansea wins very often, but you know what I mean. Is it that type of joy? A joy which comes and a joy which goes. When you hear great news, it's fantastic. And then as the days go by or the weeks go by, the news loses its vibrancy. It loses its excitement. We're still happy, but maybe we're not joyful. Joyful is a strong word, isn't it? However, this is the way of life as a Christian. That we need to find joy in every circumstance. And so what is this great joy? Well, it should be part of our character. It should be within us that we are naturally joyful people because of what Christ has done in our lives. John 15 verse 11 says, "These things I have spoken to you, that joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full." Christian joy is not an emotion. Christian joy is the fulfillment of joy. It is the experience of all joy. It is to know that we are safe and secure in Jesus Christ. Christ came not to give us a bunch of rules, but Jesus has come to bring us joy, to bring us hope, to bring us contentment. The joy is not a joy that anyone in the world could copy or emulate, but this is a joy that comes not from within, not from us trying to be joyful, but this joy comes when we ask our next question. The next question is who? If we are not the source of our joy, if we are not the source of this joy that takes root and grows and doesn't stop but gets bigger and bigger, if we are not the source of that, then who? Who is this joy? Who does this joy come from? Well, I think this is found and made really clear in Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 2. And these are the words that Hebrews says. Looking to Jesus. And that is the beginning and that is the start of true Christian joy. Joy that cannot be bruised or battered or hindered by the world. Looking to Jesus. That's where it starts. Oh, that we might look to Jesus. Oh, that we might see him for who he truly is. Looking to Jesus. And the verse continues, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. This is where our true joy comes from. Our joy cannot be lost. It cannot be broken. It cannot be hindered. For Christ has come. Christ has done what he said he would do. Jesus has had the final victory upon the cross. And so our joy is not in that job promotion. Our joy is not in the things around us. Our joy is in something that can never be taken away. Our joy is in something that will last forever. Our joy is in the eternal person of Jesus. This joy is not something that the world can have. You cannot know this joy. You cannot experience this joy unless you are looking to Jesus. And in the midst of hardship and difficulty, I encourage you, be joyful. In the middle of COVID, when you're coughing and spluttering and ill, look to Jesus. He is our source of joy. 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 8 puts it this way. Though you have not seen him, you love him. Though you do not see him, you believe in him and rejoice with joy that is inexpressible and filled with glory. I love that verse in 1 Peter because that is the depiction. That is the message of Christianity. Though we've not seen him physically, we know him, we love him, and we are filled with a joy that is inexpressible. We cannot even describe the fullness and magnitude of our joy in Jesus Christ. Nothing this world can do can ever take away the joy of the Christian. And then the final question is, why should we be a joyful people? Why should we have this joy? Well, Psalm 118 and verse 24 says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Today is a day that the Lord has made. When we wake up with life in or breath in our lungs, it might not be all the way there. I'm still a bit of short of breath. I'm still struggling a little bit. It might not all be there, but this day is a day given to us by Jesus. This day that we have is a day God has made, that God has planned, that God has orchestrated. And we are to rejoice in it. We are to be glad in all of the provisions that God has laid down for us. The one whom we love is currently sitting on the highest throne there is. He is in control of everything. Surely that fills you with joy. You don't know the future. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what that test result is going to be. You don't know when you're going to be allowed out of the house. But we pray to a God who knows everything. We worship the God who is in control of everything. We have been saved and loved and cared for and called by the God who sits on the highest throne that there is. A God who will forever be king. Surely that is a reason why we should be rejoicing. But it gets even better than that. It's not just about the here and now, but our joy is an eternal joy. 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 22 says this. Speaking of Jesus, it says, "Who is at the right hand of God, having gone into heaven after angels and authorities and power had been subjected to him." Our true joy comes from knowing that in this life and in heaven, in this life and in the next life, we are safe if we know Jesus Christ. There's nothing that can harm us. There's nothing that can defeat us. There's nothing that can break us or snatch us from the arms of God. If you know Jesus, if you love him, if you're trusting in him, there is a joy in your heart that you will have for the whole of eternity. I think we as Christians need to be a people who are more openly joyful. For if Christians cannot be joyful, then who can be? But remember, our joy does not come from ourselves. It doesn't come from material possessions or health and wealth. Both of those I haven't got at the moment. It doesn't come from material things. Our joy comes from one simple thing. Looking to Jesus, the man who went to the cross for us. The person who died in my place. Oh, that we look to Jesus and we find a greater and deeper joy for now, for today, and for the whole of eternity. Our joy will never end. Amen.